All right, let's jump right in. Opera and AI. You hear those two words, and you probably think they're from completely different planets, right? I mean, you've got this ancient art form on one hand and this super futuristic tech on the other. But what if I told you that one of our oldest art forms is actually the perfect place to figure out the future of our newest technology? It's a surprising connection, I know, but stick with me.
So the first thing we've got to get our heads around is this popular myth that opera is some kind of ancient relic, totally unchanging. It's just not true. The reality is, opera has always been a sponge for new tools, soaking them up until they feel like they were there all along. This quote just nails it. It's been a technology story hiding in plain sight this whole time.
And you can literally see it happen throughout history. Back in the 19th century, gaslight gave composers like Verdi the power to paint with shadow and light. Then you get electrical grids, and suddenly Wagner's immersive, non-stop theater becomes possible. And of course, the recording studio completely changed the game, bringing the whole epic stage right into our living rooms. So you see, generative AI isn't some invader. It's just the next thing on the timeline.
Okay, so if we're going to use AI, how do we do it right? The source material offers this really powerful idea, a metaphor that kind of governs everything else. We should think of AI as a lantern, not a sun.
And what's the difference? Well, it's pretty simple when you break it down. A sun is a technology that just overwhelms everything. It replaces, it automates, it creates a huge spectacle where the tech is the show. But a lantern, now that's different. A lantern illuminates, it guides, it proposes things, and helps reveal the meaning that's already there in the art. The lantern serves human creativity. It never ever tries to become it.
So this brings us to the most important rule of thumb, this really simple but profound ethical line in the sand. The AI can suggest things, sure. It can spot patterns we might miss. It can do all the heavy lifting. But the final call, that final creative choice, that has to stay with the human artist, always. AI proposes, humans dispose. End of story.
All right, so that's the big idea. But what does a lantern actually look like when you're in the rehearsal room? How does AI become the smartest tool in the building without trying to take over the whole show?
So picture this, you're in a rehearsal, and there's an AI just listening to the music. And when a specific theme, a leitmotif, gets played, the AI recognizes it and quietly flags it. Maybe a singer sees a little note on a screen that a renunciation theme is happening under her line. Or the lighting designer gets a gentle nudge to cool the colors. The machine basically becomes the most attentive literary advisor in the world, but it never ever forces anyone's hand. It just makes everybody in the room a little more aware, a little more connected.
And this goes way beyond just rehearsals. I mean, think about it. You could use AI to simulate a hall's acoustics before you even build the set, saving a ton of time and money. Or what about a personalized diction coach for singers right in the practice room? You could have stage projections that suddenly breathe and shift with the orchestra's volume. Even for a live broadcast, the AI could suggest camera shots to the director to make sure the visual story follows the musical one. See? In every single case, it's a tool. It's not the main event.
And this quote just perfectly captures the goal. Wagner famously built a covered pit for his orchestra so the audience wouldn't be distracted, so the drama on stage could just blaze. We have to do the same thing with AI. Our job is to hide the model, to make the technology so seamless it disappears. That way, the human performance, the living, breathing music, that's what stays in the spotlight.
Now, of course, talking about all this brings up some big, important questions. It's totally natural to feel a little anxious when you start mixing machines and art. So we have to talk about the rules, the ethics, the guardrails we need to put in place to make sure this whole thing stays authentic and human.
And this is really the question at the heart of all that anxiety, isn't it? If we let an algorithm into the studio, are we squeezing out what makes art special? What's our role going to be when a tool this powerful is on the table?
The answer isn't to run away, it's to build clear, non-negotiable rules right from the start. First, provenance. We need clear, simple labels on anything AI has touched. Next, consent and fair pay. If an artist's work is used to train a model, they have to agree to it, and they have to be compensated for it. Period. The unions have to be partners in this from day one, not an afterthought. And finally, we have to be responsible about it, using smaller, more efficient AIs for specific jobs instead of some giant energy-sucking model for every little thing.
And there's another really interesting ethical angle here. We can use AI not to hide the past, but to face it head-on. Imagine you're watching an opera from a composer with, let's say, a complicated legacy. With AI, you could have a context layer that gives you access to historical documents and real scholarship about that history. It's not about covering things up, it's about building a kind of moral literacy right into the experience.
So when you put all of this together, the lantern idea, the practical tools, the ethical rules, you end up at this really profound place. You start to see what the real purpose of this technology could be. It's about making a very human bet. This is the soul of the whole argument. Why do we go to see a live show? We go for the risk. We go because a human voice is a fragile thing. That tiny crack in a high note, that moment of shared silence in a room, that vulnerability, that's where the magic is. That frailty is the point.
So the goal here isn't to use AI to create some perfectly polished, automated performance. It's not about swapping out beautiful human imperfection for cold machine precision. No. The only reason to do this, the only good reason, is to use the tech to handle the boring stuff, to solve the technical headaches, and to free up artists so they have more space to take those brave, beautiful, human risks.
We're at a fork in the road. The technology is here, there's no doubt about that. But where it goes next, that's not set in stone. It all comes down to a choice we have to make. One single, fundamental choice.
And this is the choice. Are we going to use AI to build an automated templed art, something that's perfect, predictable, and ultimately sterile? Or are we going to use it as a lantern to build a braver one? A place that uses technology to empower human artists to be more daring, more vulnerable, and more profound than they've ever been before.